Welcome once again to Desis on Main Street, where we explore the incredible journeys of Indian Americans who have found success and made significant contributions to their communities in the US. Today we have a special guest with us, Seema Jagtiani, President, Amogh Associates LLC, and Seema's inspiring story spans across continents from India to Spain to United States and showcases her remarkable achievements in the finance and insurance industries. She is not only a successful businesswoman but also a passionate mentor and community leader. Let's hear her story and the insights she has to share. Welcome, Seema ji. How are you?
Hello, good. How are you?
I am doing wonderful. So, Seema ji, let's start from your childhood. You know, your childhood was in New Delhi, and start from the beginning. You know, how was your childhood? Any favorite memories you have from growing up?
So yes, I had a lovely childhood. I was brought up in Delhi and went to the most notorious school, the modern school. And I think that school taught me a lot. It gave me a lot of confidence in myself till life changes again.
Wonderful. So how did you, New Delhi, and I'm sure, your parents helped you shape your life?
Well, always all parents help you shape your life because that is your core foundation. That's where you come from. I know one thing, that my parents made me the strong person that I am today.
And then you did your schooling in Delhi, and then did you do your college, or you went to Spain?
I went to Spain actually, and my lifestyle is a little bit different than a lot of women, yet it is similar to a lot of women in the world too. I was married when I was 16 years old and married to somebody in Spain. And right after my marriage, like 2 months later, we moved to Spain, where I was for 17 years. That's the country that actually made me what I am today, taught me everything that I was to use in my future life. My both children were born there, and I consider that as my childhood home.
Lovely. But I'm sure, moving from India to Spain, it must have been real challenging in the sense of, culture-wise, everything else. So
yes and no. Culture-wise, Spain is very similar to India. People are very family oriented, they're very conservative in their nature. In fact, coming from Delhi, I found Spain to be much more conservative
than
India. So, it was adjusting to those people. Yes, it did take a lot because you have to learn a new language, you have to learn, like in India, you can walk around, you'll see people walking around in their pajamas, you'll see people, not putting makeup, not combing their hair, just, tying a ponytail and getting out. In Spain, no. Even if you're going to buy bread, you actually deck up to step out of your house. You cannot step out of your house without being properly dressed, So it's a different cultural background. The people are very nice. They embrace you. And, I learned Spanish in the first 6 months because I was young. I was only 16. So just, I was so used to schooling and studying that helped me over there. And that's where I finished my further education.
So what decided you to then move from Spain to US?
See, Spain as on its own gives priority to Spanish people. People of Spanish origin. So if you're a Spanish, and you stand much better chances, educatively, career-wise, everywhere, they give top priority to the Spanish people first. And I think that is very commendable. I really think that people say this is racism or whatever, but you know what? That's why it's called Spain, and the people are Spanish. So if you have an Indian child getting good grades, but you have a Spanish child getting a little bit lesser than the best grades, they will give preference to the Spanish. So my kid was very IT oriented. He was kind of born with it because right from when he was 4 or 5 years old, he was very fond of these computer games, computer things, and I used to take computer courses and take him with me, and he as a kid used to sit and my teacher just gave him a laptop to play with, computer to play with, and this kid learned all the programs. So he had a very bright future in front of him, and that was my motivation. I wanted my children to have the best possible. And so my life revolved around my kids, and it's because of them that we moved to America. And then my parents were here. So they sponsored us and we moved here on a green card.
So you had, like, I'm sure, you know, everybody who moves from one country to another country, they go through a lot of challenges. So you had any kind of challenges that you would want to talk about?
So yes, challenges. Life does bring you a challenge when you're totally uprooted from the kind of childhood and the background and the country, and you're uprooted and sent to a country which has totally different culture. Language becomes a big barrier at that point. So luckily, because I was young, I was able to overcome that barrier fast. But then educational background and Spain, where I was in the Canary Islands, at my time, ladies never worked. Ladies never drove. Ladies, it is a completely masculine country. I mean, I'm talking about 1980, okay? Things must have changed since then. So it was pretty challenging, especially I had bigger challenges. I was a victim of domestic violence, and I was in that kind of ambiance for 13 years. But now it's up to me whether I want to look at it as a block around my neck, like a stone on my neck and somebody's thrown me into the ocean, or I look at that, hey, you know what, that made me realize my inner power.
Exactly.
As a human being, I personally believe that every single human being has a God inside them, and there is a power right inside you. Just look for it and find it. So eventually, when I realized that continuing this way, I was raising another women abuser, made me take that step. And, you know, I educated myself, got my degrees, you know.
So you did that
started
here
working
in US?
No, all while I was in Spain.
Spain, okay.
I initiated my divorce, I educated myself, and I started working. And from being a person who was a very quiet, sweet housewife and a mother of, a kid, I became an entrepreneur. And I went through that was my most challenging moment, because at that point, I was a very sweet homemaker, social person to the community. And now I wanted to stand up as a woman. So the people who used to really love me stopped talking to me. I mean, if I was walking the road, people would change the side of the road. It was, now, am I going to take that as a negative thing? That would have killed me then. Because from being one of the most loved people, I was one of the most hated person. And now I realize about it, because I think people started getting scared that their wives are going to take that motivation from me.
Right.
Because I don't know how many homes were having domestic violences. We don't know what was this. Nobody's peeping into anybody's house and seeing what's going on. But I was determined to make it, and I was just like towards my goal, and I managed to succeed. I got my job. I was the first lady in the Canary Islands to take a divorce.
Wow.
I was the first lady in Canary Islands to get a driver's license. Come on, that's a very basic thing here.
Yeah.
But over there, it was a big deal.
Big thing.
I was the first Indian lady to take a job. So people were getting a little bit, it's their sense of insecurity for the male species, right? But then today, when I went back to Spain, like I went back to Spain a few years ago as a visitor, everything has changed.
Changed there, yes.
And people were, you would see the crowd that came to receive me at the airport. I was surprised that, I was considered to be something extraordinary, over there, and the respect I got when I went there, and I was like, why? What happened? I was asking what happened, and then someone came and told me, you know what? We really realized our lives, our women, and a lot of women are working now. A lot of women have their lives, and everybody is living a much more healthier life. So yeah, and then we moved to America in 1996.
It was so stressful. I was being ripped off by this unreliable, lousy credit card processing service.
Our money wasn't in our bank. We got charged surprise extra fees. There seem to always be issues.
So one day, I told everyone, we are switching to NRS Pay because they offer clean, honest, and reliable credit card processing.
And now the lines move like this.
I am loving NRS Pay. मेरे बिजनेस के लिए ये सबसे बढ़िया क्रेडिट कार्ड प्रोसेसिंग सर्विस है.
You moved
Yes.
here, and so I'm sure coming to this country now starts another set of challenges. You know, you need to find a job, you need to make sure, you know, our kid is going at the right place, school, and everything else.
Right, so I moved because of my son's future. My daughter was only 6 months old when we moved. So for her, life is America. But for my son, I think the best thing was when he came from Spain, education-wise, he did very well over here because the standard of education in Spain is much higher. And now he is a very big director and doing very well in computers, in IT, and he works as a, you know, in management in a big financial company. So,
you know, coming to US, and yes, as you said, you were coming for your, you know, son. You came mostly because the daughter was still young. I'm sure, you know, you had to find a job for yourself to support the son and the daughter. How did you manage to do all that?
So that is a very big challenge, and that's something I need to share with people. We had challenges, and my biggest challenge was a job. And in that beginning, and we are talking about 1996. 96 December we came here, so 1997, the first few months. I filled up my resume. I sent my resume to over 54 companies that called me for interview. And that's where I lost it in my 54th. I gave them a good answer back and ended up getting a job with them actually. So they look at your resume, and then the whole reason why they would not accept you is because you had no experience in America. Heck, I sent you my resume. It says I just moved to America. How do you expect me to have that experience in America?
Exactly.
And at the last interview, after I finished the interview, he said, we'll get back to you. And by that time I was so frustrated, I just turned around and said, I know you won't get back at me. I just don't understand why you interviewers are doing this to people. Didn't you read my resume? You're going to say no because I don't have experience in America? I just moved to America. How would I have an experience over here? And whether I can learn and be successful, if you see my resume, it has been an upward ladder, so there's no reason why I fail. I don't know how to fail. There's no reason why I would fail. And that's fine. You don't need to reach out to me. And I left. Because their body language tells you. By 54 interviews, now you understand the interviewer's body language also, right? And the next he called, it was an Indian person who gave me my first job over here in warehouse invoicing. Okay. The same date he had hired an American guy. Within 6 months, that American, I was performing equally or better than that guy, but within 6 months, this guy ended up getting a promotion. And that frustrated me again. And then I had interviewed with Fleet Bank at that time. So out of frustration, I called the interviewer, like, you know, the HR. And I told them that I'd send my resume. I wanted to hear. Now, let me tell you one thing. That's where I believe that your persistence, but at the same time, your best friend, that is God, is there by you.
Exactly.
Because it so happened that the day I called, the branch in Edison was in desperate need of someone.
Wow.
Because they had lost 2 of their employees and they were merging. NatWest was merging with Fleet. So it was becoming a new name. And it was being at the right place at the right time. And that was my first interview after like my job, you know. And I went and I told him, I said, I have no experience in banking, let me tell you that. But banking runs in my blood because all my family has been in banking. But of course, that doesn't mean anything. But give me 30 days and let me prove myself. And after 30 days, if you don't like me, you can let me go. So he asked me, so if I give you a 30 days trial, you're going to give up your other job, now you'll be jobless again. I said, well, the other job is no big deal. But at least now I can write in my resume, I have experience in Bank of America, and it was Fleet Bank at that time. I have experience in Fleet Bank. So maybe that'll help me. Just because I spoke Spanish, and this was Edison, that is the reason that manager tried me out. And he said, I'm going to give you a chance, but I'm a nasty person. I'm very angry, and I get angry very fast. But if you are able to tolerate my anger, then I will make sure you get all the knowledge. Now, coming from a domestic violence background, anger is nothing.
That is true.
Because he's just going to verbally speak. At that time, I didn't know what torture verbal language does versus what torture physical language does, right? But I went through it, and yeah, he would get really angry. And my coworkers used to tell me, how can you tolerate it? It's just not fair. But again, I'm saying it was my outlook. I felt that I can shut off my ears. And that may be something either I cultivated at that time or might be another God-given gift to me.
Right.
He would keep on screaming and I wouldn't hear the yelling. But my brain would filter the words what he was yelling for.
Wow.
So it was the mistake that I made. He would lose a temper. And I told him I didn't know anything about banking, so I was going to make mistakes. Obviously, I'm a human being. And I caught those mistakes and just continued. 30 years went into 60 days, went into 90 days. 90 days later, I told him, Harvey, you told me you'll give me 30 days. Should I start looking for another job? He said, don't you dare, go back to your seat. I was there in that branch for 10 years.
Wow. So you moved from like customer service rep to a vice president.
Right.
And now you run your own agency.
Right.
So tell me, what are some of the key factors that you think, is all the success you have, what are some of the key factors to that?
My key factors were the people that God put in front of me. My manager, Harvey Needles. Then I was 15 years in banking. He taught me everything. And I had that hunger. I was a sponge. I was ready to learn. I just kept getting licenses, kept getting, all my degrees in the finance department, and went up to being a senior vice president actually, and being an AVP in a bank like Fleet Bank, which then became, Bank of America, is something big. And it gave me a confidence in myself. It raised my educational level. It raised my knowledge level. And, then from that I moved on to another bank. But then when banks merge, when there are mergers and acquisitions, the highest paid employees are pretty much the first one to go. And now that's where I hit rock bottom again. 15 years later, being number one in Northeast of America, like complete Northeast of America, my numbers were always topmost. And then all of a sudden being let go because, it was too much money they were paying, it kinds of drains you. So I felt that I went back to, square one. Again started. That's when Colonel Virendra recruited me from Monster. And I always tell everybody that he recruited me from Monster, not realizing he's recruiting a monster. So with that, then it's been on, and it's a God-given gift. I'm very good in sales and marketing and empathy. That's, I think, the most important factor is all these people taking things in my life. I wanted to reach at the top. My goal in life was to make sure my son and my daughter get the same education level, get the same degrees, get the same opportunities in life. So I told them that it's your part to achieve that admission because it's their essays, their GPA. I said, you pointed, you qualify for it, and I'll make it happen. Doesn't matter what, where, how. So both my sons' children ended up in good colleges, and my whole focus of my life was that college at that point. So now I'm coming as a woman, as a mother, okay? And our life changes with these goals.
Absolutely.
And our goals changes with the time. So at that time, my goal was my kids' degree, my kids' education. They got it. I made it happen. They both are very well settled now. Now what? They went to college. I felt that was another down because We mothers will go into the empty rooms of our kids and cry, and we miss them.
Exactly.
You know, but I think my life was such a struggle always, working and trying to bring the best, that I immersed myself in my job. And that, my work, and that's what basically makes me stronger and stronger and stronger. And one thing I've realized that is extremely important in life is a triangle. And now I draw a triangle. It's a triangle, right? Somebody can just look at it as a three-sided triangle, but I look at it as a peak.
Right.
The
Right.
top of the triangle is a peak. The bottom of the triangle is where I am when I'm starting a new project, I'm starting a new career, I'm starting a new life. How can you reach up the peak? You have to go step by step. And the focus has to be there. We help a lot of kids, we get a lot of interns, we guide them. And my first question to every intern is, what is at the tip of your triangle? And they're like, excuse me? I realize nobody's created a triangle. How can you live without a goal? So that's what makes it very easy for me. You'll find me always happy and smiling, because if I make up to the first step also, well, that's a step I achieved. It's an achievement for me.
Right.
I mean, I don't think I will ever reach to the top, because my top is pretty high. But at that point of life, when my kids were there and when I moved here, my peak was the college for my kids, which I did. At the end of the college, I told them, now it's all about me.
Absolutely.
Honestly, today, it's all about me.
It was so stressful. I was being ripped off by this unreliable, lousy credit card processing service.
Our money wasn't in our bank. We got charged surprise extra fees. There seem to always be issues.
So one day, I told everyone, we are switching to NRS Pay because they offer clean, honest, and reliable credit card processing.
And now the lines move like this.
I am loving NRS Pay. मेरे बिजनेस के लिए ये सबसे बढ़िया क्रेडिट कार्ड प्रोसेसिंग सर्विस है.
So tell me, I know you mentor a lot of people, a lot of girls. You, as you rightly said, that you get interns at your place and you talk about triangle, or you even basically, empower women. So what drives you to do that?
My own past, the struggles that I had, the challenges that I had to face, every step of a challenge, the language, how I'm going to interview, what all I went through, what all they should be careful of, because one basic, most important thing is don't think that you are weak. The minute you think that you are weak, the world will dance on your head. So realizing your self-power is the most important step in any human being's life. And that's what this life taught me. Today, we are talking about 13 years of domestic violence. Maybe partly I was to blame for it too. Why? Because when he hit me the first time, had I hit him back, maybe the second time would never have happened.
Right.
Maybe it wouldn't have ended in a divorce. Maybe life would have been different. Maybe. But I made sure that I taught my daughter, don't take shit from anybody.
Wonderful. And I know you even have founded Shraddha Foundation.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about that. What made you do that?
Again, the feeling when I heard a few stories of how there is, and it's not really a discrimination, it's your positions. Because once you become a soldier, you're a sipahi, or you're a foot soldier, and then you go up to a major, to a captain, to a colonel, to a general. That soldier, the first step of the soldier is the one who's actually in the front when they're fighting a battle. They're young. They're 22 to 25 years old. And in India, at that age, you get married. People are married. They have sometimes 1-year-old babies. They have 2-year-old children when they lose their lives. Because these are the front people, and they are the ones who lose their lives first, don't they? But when it comes to settlement of pension, when it comes to, see, pension increases when your time in the forces increases in any job. Forget armed forces, any job. As your time increases, your funding increases, your pension increases. But what happens to these little people, these young people who have died? What happens to their children? What happens to their wives? Their wives, especially in villages, they don't have any career path. They got married when they were 18, and their husbands are 20, 22 years old. They don't know anything. And then, especially when you're in a villages, with the way the gundas go there and they take away the pension money and they do that. So there is no, I personally went to those villages and I've met these ladies and seen the plight that they go through, the problems that they have. So that's when, it kind of motivated me. How about guiding these women? How about helping their children? So that's where we started, Shraddha Foundation, and it was actually an idea suggested to us by Kulrajji and my business partner, Colonel Virendra Tavatia, who is ex-army colonel. He gave up 22 years of his life on the borders of India. So having him as a source where I would be able to get the right people to donate, and having motivation about women empowerment, that's what made me step into this, and we just co-founded with him and made this. So our idea is to go and motivate those women how to live.
But I'm sure there
their
are,
future
every
life.
step of the way, even doing what you do, there still are a lot of challenges.
Yes, it is. It is, and then what's the fun without challenges? I love challenges because when you have challenges and you face them and overcome them, oh man, that's a thrilling feeling.
So, especially for our youngsters and people who are coming from India and they want to settle here, some of them are like, there are a lot of challenges here and they don't want to do it. Would you want to say anything to them?
I would definitely want to tell them that challenges are what make you strong. If you don't have challenges, you cannot be a strong person. So take those challenges as a blessing, because you've got to face it and you've got to overcome it. There are a lot of people, unfortunately, who come with the idea of a free living, luxury living. They think America is luxury living. It's all easy, everything is smooth. They're given food in their hand, they're given everything in their hand.
Money grows on trees.
And when they have challenges, they don't want to face those challenges. They want to go back to charity. They're okay begging. What do you do with people like that? I've had ladies who've come to me who are coming educated. They have their degrees. They come here, oh, my husband is mistreating me, this and that. And when I tell them, what are you doing? Want to work? Why should I work? He can give me alimony. I'm sorry, I don't respect people like that. Because you have no self-respect. If you have no self-respect, why do you want me to give you respect? So, again, that's my own thought process. It's my way of thinking, and that's the baton that I used, or maybe the walking stick I used to make myself powerful.
So as a woman, you have been doing a lot, which is, in today's world, both are equal. But how do you manage everything? Like, home life, of course, going to friends, socializing and everything, and working, and you're good at everything. How do you do all that?
Well, I'm not really good at everything because I'm not a millionaire yet. But for me, it's actually very simple. If you learn two important things in your life, one is time management and the other one is priority. If you have your priorities straight, then it's very easy because you don't let number 2 priority come in front of number 1 priority. So we have to have our priorities straight, and then time management. So I think that was what my first manager over here taught me, like Fleet Bank's training into, scheduling and setting appointments and how you do things, how you see body languages and all that stuff. I think all those trainings over my life, over the years, my most basic training started in Holy Child School.
Wow.
Which was a convent school, which I'm talking about elementary school. In elementary school, they teach you how to make the timetable. And they teach you your homeworks. Your homework is due tomorrow, your homework is due in 3 days. Don't we prioritize that? Don't we finish the homework that's due tomorrow? But we forget that simple word, prioritizing, in our lives today. Time management, that's what timetable is about. It's
So
time
is that your
management.
success mantra?
Absolutely. My success mantra is my Google Calendar. So my Google Calendar and my priority, my triangle. Those are the two things that basically make my life very easy and it's smooth.
Thank you so much and wishing you all the best.
Thanks to you.
Well, that was the story of Seema Jagtiani, who is an inspiration to so many of us. And this was our episode for today. We will be back next week, same time. Till then, goodbye.